All right.
Okay.
What did we watch?
We watched The Invitation. Oh,
Yeah, this was a movie. I think. It's weird because I thought it was a Netflix movie. Maybe it's just I definitely remember seeing it on Netflix when it had first came out. So I've seen this one before, but it had been. It's been years and years since I've seen this. But this was your first time watching it.
mm-hmm. So, how do you want to start? You want to start with like the plot, little plot summary?
Yeah, like I'll just say real quick that the story is about Will and Kira. They are a couple, and Will has been invited to a dinner party at his ex's house. Mm-hmm. They have a child, and this is something he is reluctantly doing, but he feels like he needs to do for some closure with their relationship together. But that's basically, and peculiar things happen throughout the evening.
There are some things that, like, right now, we're at the very beginning, like, he does, like, use, it's graphic, so, graphic warning. He hits a coyote, and then, of course, we're just, like, instead of, like, maybe running the coyote over to, like, get, like, mercy, kill it, he decides to hit it with a tire iron, and to me, that's, like, the one peculiar thing, but, like, I'm thinking about, like, the whole movie itself. It doesn't feel very symbolic, like, I don't understand. So, kind of going through the plot, like, it's a very straightforward plot. Nothing really changes too much. Like, there's some weird happenings throughout the whole movie about, like, maybe his ex and, like, her new husband or boyfriend or whatever are, like, cult members. And it's kind of, like, back and forth with, like, well, maybe they are, maybe they are, maybe they are. And eventually, everything you think just turns out to be true. And there's
they outright admit it. They outright admit they're in a cult after they show them the video.
That's true. But like it was less. It was more of like I guess that's true. It feels like what they're downplaying they're downplaying how what they are required to do by this Dr. Joseph fellow who you hear through this video, but I think. That's kind of what I'll give of the plot. It's really not much more than that. There's nothing. There's some elements of grief with like his ex-wife and then him because they had a son who died and he got struck with a baseball bat maybe. So there's like a lot of grief elements in there. And then she went to Mexico to like with this guy, I'm sure to find an escape, and then found this cult as like a means of like grieving his loss. Yeah, their loss. So. There are some grief elements that like I don't connect with. As a parent, I would say that that's a very tragic thing, of course. And if you've ever lost a child, then I can see this being like way more of a harder subject. But like the whole like dinner party thing, the whole behavior of all the guests, and including like the ex and her husband, I think his name is David. But it just no one is just like screaming like these guys are just weird. Like, this friend group is weird. Their behavior is weird. There was a few parts where some guys just find like, what the fuck? And you're kind of just like, well, thank God somebody had to say something because it just feels very strange.
Yeah, so let's maybe step back through some of the beginning parts. Like all dinner parties in a freaking movie or TV show, they have to be at night. It has to be at like 10 p.m. because everybody eats dinner at 10:30 p.m. It's really goofy. But this, the friend group is kind of strange. It is like it is a very weird dynamic that this friend group has. They like obviously they're all actors, but even in the movie, they just seem like they could be complete strangers. Like just all hanging out and like, I don't know. They don't behave like a typical friend group would. Mm-hmm. None of them are really admitting how strange any of the events in the evening are. Like, of course, you talk about the cult, and yes, that is extremely strange, and they barely touch on it. But they don't even really address the fact that isn't it strange that we're all together? Like, we don't do this anymore. We used to hang out a lot, but we don't anymore because of just the tragedy that happened between Will and his ex-wife. Well, what's his ex-wife's name?
Something. Eden.
Eden. Yeah. So like, it seems as though this friend group kind of fell out because of the tragedy that they went through. They don't spend time anymore. Nobody even really acknowledges the fact that just being together is strange. But as they get into this evening, David, Eden's sort of spouse or partner or whatever, obviously he has kind of a strange vibe. And then this cult leader or I don't know, cardinal, like somebody who's got like some sort of posture in this cult, he just shows up and he's just hanging out. Yeah, and then they decide, of course, what do you decide to do into like a dinner party is you say, hey, I'm going to show you a video about this cult.
Yeah.
And the video plays, and of course it's doing cult stuff where it's talking about how great it is, how free everybody feels. They're showing B-roll of yoga poses, and it's all great. And then it immediately goes into showing a scene of a woman dying.
Oh, she had cancer, though, so...
Well, but it's her on her deathbed.
Yeah.
And she is...
I think that they made that. I think the cancer part is made up.
Yeah, they're showing this woman who is dying, and they have somebody that's talking to her and sort of doing this...
kind of like afterlife
one
speak.
with everything sort of speech about her transitioning from life to death. At this point, I don't know, like you and I were joking about this, but there just really is a very significant lack of what is happening here kind of
just like
mood.
Like a reality check. Like it feels like that every character here is just behaving based on nothing, and it feels like too fakeish. Like if you're really good friends with somebody, like the friends that I have, like if something was weird was going on, like I 100% expect my friends to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like calling each other out, like being a little bit more razzy, being a little less proper. But here they are, just like, you know, it feels very like this is like what an average person think like a Californian like friend group would be like. Just with like all the wine, like let's just drink wine and talk about like let's play a game called I Want. And instead of like, you know, the college game we used to play like never did I, never have I, whatever. We're gonna play a game called I Want, and you just say what you want, and then we'll let it happen, you know. And the first thing someone asks for is what was it? I can't remember. One person says, I want cocaine. The guy's like, well, here's some cocaine. And you're like, oh my God, like, what the hell?
She was like, I'm just joking. He's like, no, I know you're not just joking. Yeah. I have it. And she's like, all right, that's fine.
And then this cult leader, or cardinal as Aaron called him.
Well, like, before you get to that, like, I do think that it is like worth reemphasizing that the way that these characters talk to each other is like plot expedience. It really is like, this is the same problem that you and I had with We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is like it feels less real that these people are just saying whatever they need to say, checking whatever social check boxes they need to move the plot forward. It's like it feels so less real to me than them just doing exactly what you're talking about, which is like, hey, what are you talking about? You just showed us a person dying. Like, that is not okay. That's not a dinner party thing you do.
Right.
And they had one person say that, but like one person out of a group of like 9 people, not exactly.
Of like intelligent people.
Right. Like people who should be hyper aware that this is not normal dinner party behavior.
Yeah. So
go on.
So kind of like the kind of the crux of that game was like the guy, like this Pruitt, that's his name. He comes in again. He, unbeknownst to anybody else, only knows David, the guy, and no one else is like this. Why is this guy? He's like clearly out of our age group, anyways. He's just kind of this like 50-year-old plus guy, and he tells a story about how he killed his wife. Like it would probably be called like third degree or second degree murder because they were drinking, even though he like pretty much praised her. He ends up killing her because he was frustrated and like...
He was drunk.
He was drunk, hit her on the head, and, you know, she died, hit her head on the corner, or whatever. And no one's just like, what the fuck?
I mean, at this point, dinner party's over. Like, it is so is so incredibly unbelievable to me that these people are like, they're just sitting there listening to this strange man that no one has ever met except for David and Eden, that he is telling them this story about how he got drunk, he had an argument with his wife, hit his wife as hard as he could, and then she falls down, hits her head, and she dies. Yeah. And he's talking about like, I feel bad, but I've just let all that go. I
moved past that.
I went to prison. I
did my time.
Yeah, and it's like, this is a dinner party. I mean, again, like, I think
whether you're lying or not, to me, it's just like, it's enough to be like, okay, the fun is over, and this is like becoming, and this is after witnessing somebody dying to like a cult video, like a recruitment video. There's a lot of things, and I can't pinpoint all of them unless they kind of like because there's a lot of, like, we were kind of joking about, like, there are tropes to this movie, like the typical, like, get an invitation to a weird dinner party and these tropey things start happening, like the doors, he's locking the doors, and the main character's like, why are you locking the doors?
He's locking the deadbolt from the inside, and there is no way without the key to unlock it. Like, how many deadbolts do you know that work like that? Yeah, they work like that on the outside. They don't work like that on the inside.
So he was like questioning, and that's like, to me, of course, that's an easy question that you would be like, that's kind of weird. But then it's almost like the movie wants you to kind of teases you along, and it's about like, from like, it kind of reminds me a lot, like, at least the pacing feels a lot like Blair Witch. And I have my criticisms of that movie. I mean, if you've listened to the old films, I mean, whatever you think of that movie, that's fine. But the pacing feels very familiar. It's like, it's got to drag it out to the very end of the movie is like where things start shaping up. But again, the tropey stuff is just like, we kind of just know, like, they want to convince the audience that these tropes were like, you're just exaggerating, because the guy ends up like crashing out over like the wine that they're drinking, and then he's like, this is ridiculous, things are going on, where's Choi at? I got a voicemail about him. It's just a party guest that never showed up, but he said he got there at 7, and it's way past 7 at this point. Again, who eats dinner past 7 in the middle of the night?
People in LA,
I guess. And it just feels like he has a legit crash out, and we're just like, that makes sense. And then everyone looks at him like, this guy, like, the main character is like, what's your problem, dude? Like, and even through like grieving of his child loss, like, they still look at him like he's the weirdo. To me, it just feels so, why are they friends with this guy? Why is he friends with these friends? Or why is he a friend of these guys? Like, his friend group is weird. They're just like unempathetic. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I mean when I say that, like, everything feels very plot expeditious. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's sort of like the way that the father behaves, and we need to talk about Kevin, where he's, everybody in the movie, or the strong majority of the movie of people are like, this is fine, this is all fine, we should just, it's no big thing, Eden gets like this, David gets like this, whatever. Like, everybody brushes everything off as a plot device to move things forward. But, and like, I understand that as like a movie mechanic because you're trying to move the story forward. But in a lot of ways, for a movie like this, which is focused on like real life, real world circumstances, dealing with grief, coping with tragedy, that type of thing, it feels contradictory. Like, that doesn't feel like life, when the way that you brush things off and you don't address elephants in the room when it comes up, especially one where it's like, who's this strange man at a dinner party? Like, it just, I think a lot of my complaints about this movie are very similar to some of the complaints that we've talked about in some other movies. It's just, it doesn't feel real. Like, it is a movie that is supposed to feel like real life. These are real people. They're in a real situation. It takes place during one event. It's you can relate to a lot of the dinner party awkwardness, but there's just like, it just doesn't make sense the way that people behave. Right. It's the same. We talked about this in the last movie we'd watched, but it's almost exactly like when you see somebody being chased by the killer and they go upstairs and you're like, what are you doing? Like, it's so it's more frustrating than it is like thrilling. I don't feel thrilled. I feel like, what are these morons doing?
Yeah. I think there is some type of like principle or like phenomenon where someone, if there's a large, tall but skinny object falling towards you, it's like running straight backwards rather than running to the left or the right. Like, that's what this movie feels like in terms of like, at least like like peril evasion. You want to do the smartest things, and the characters just don't do the smart thing. They don't do the things that like feel very obvious, like to the outside viewer, but even to like the friend group, if some of these things were happening, like I feel like we're just like really outspoken people, like, again, the cult video would be enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm dipping. Like, no delicious food enough would keep me there to be like, I really want to try this roast that they're having, like, or the wine is this good that I'm going to continue to stay, because none of that is like feels very like believable to me.
I mean, there is like, I do understand that in real world scenarios, people don't like friction. They don't like
confrontation.
They don't like confrontation. And I think if this were like maybe a work party, I could understand people being like, oh, I'll kind of roll with it because maybe this is just like, I don't know, like I don't know these people that well. But these are his ostensibly his best friends. Exactly. And so it feels very strange to not address any of this. And then, of course, whenever he has an outburst, or whenever he has some sort of concern he airs, everybody's looking at him like he's got like tentacles growing out of his face. Like they look at him like, oh my gosh, dude, you're kind of the crazy one here. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk to this guy who just told us that he killed his wife. It doesn't feel natural. Yeah, and honestly, like I think that it really hurts this movie because I think we're sort of approaching what is about the halfway point of this movie. And one thing we didn't address is that one of the party goers, is it Claire? She leaves?
Yes, she does leave. Yes,
so
Claire.
And of course, it took a lot of her trying to push and say, hey, I'm leaving. Yeah. And it took some help from Will to say, I am, let her leave, let her go. She doesn't want to be here. Mm-hmm. They hinted that she may not have been able to leave safely because the Pruitt sort of addressed her in this car, and she's off screen. You can't really see what happens. Yeah. But this is sort of the halfway point. And then this is where I do think, like, I think the first half of this movie is probably the weakest, honestly. Like, because after this, I think that something sort of interesting to me happens is he is having this crisis of, like, everything is not as it seems. Choi is not here. He called me, left a voicemail, and he's just now got this. And he's kind of blown up at the dinner table, and then who knocks on the door? Choi.
It's Choi.
So, like, I think that this movie does something interesting in that, not interesting as in, like, oh, no movies have ever done this.
Yeah.
But just things seem to have gone back to, like, okay, well, maybe things aren't quite as screwed up. Like, Choi is here. He wasn't, like, murdered and then they have him in the basement or something. So I don't know. Like, I mean, at this point, like, what did you think? This is not the first time I saw this movie. So at that point, what did you think was the direction the movie was heading?
To me, like, I understand what you're saying. I think to me, it's like it feels far too obvious to be like, when Choi walked through the door, bad stuff was going to happen. You just knew it because, like, nothing has really happened up until this point. Nothing. It's like an hour of them debating whether, is this too weird or is this not weird enough? Is he sane or is he not sane? Is what he believes is, so to me it was like, I don't think there's like a long psychological element of it because, like, if it was, we had just watched a movie about someone debating like a psychological thing, like, is it all in their head? That was the whole gimmick. To me, like, this movie feels like if it feels like the payout for what I had spent my time with wasn't going to be worth it. So to me, like when Choi walked in the door, to me it was like we're getting to the climax of the movie, which again, I compared it with, with Blair Witch. Like there was like a climb. I mean, that was I will say that I think that's dumbing it down a bit. I think the Blair Witch Project had a little bit more tension in the middle of the movie. Like this movie feels like kind of like that steady roller coaster up, but it's like the roller coaster maxes out like 20 feet high. Like everything that happened is kind of what I expected to happen. Like these guys really are like cultists, and their plan was to kill everyone. And there's no motivation behind it, none. There's a part where you see David and Eden talking, and he says to her like, "We're gonna make this happen. We're gonna get to the other side. Whatever. We're gonna whatever cult language you want to use." And then the very end we can talk about later, but there was a motivation to kill them, and even towards the end, like Eden shoots Will, the main character, in the shoulder with a gun and all their other friends are dead, most of them except for one, and Eden's like, "Carry me outside," and Will's like, "Okay, I'll carry." It's like, to me it just feels like, man, if my ex-wife shot me in the shoulder with a gun and killed and her ex-husband or her new husband, partner, whatever, killed all my friends, my God, I would refuse. Like, it just feels so unnatural. And I mean, I guess maybe there's like the relationship factor that's still there, but I don't know. To me, it was very expected. There wasn't anything unexpected. It kind of followed that it was like, we're not trying to be too tropey because we're like, the tropes are so obvious, but it ended up being the most tropey, like, come to our house. We're not weird cultists, I swear, but we are actually cultists and we're here to kill you.
Yeah. So
that's what I mean.
Yeah. So when you saw Choi come though to the actual party,
yeah,
like you didn't have any sense of like, maybe the movie's going to take a turn in which
he's a little psycho, like the character is like imagining things.
Well, not even imagining things like quite that heavy-handed, but more of like, oh, maybe they're not in a cult, or if they are, it's not that bad. You sort of had this feeling of like impending doom.
Yeah, I still because of like, that's like right before this, like he aired his grievances of like the weird things that they're doing, like the random woman in the room was also like part of this Mexican cult that they said they went to, this Pruitt guy talking about his wife. There's a couple other things that happened that just like felt very off. Like let's play a game. Like we're a cult. We play games in this cult. Like that felt very odd. But then the one thing he did talk about was like that one tipping point was the Choi incident where again he finally got cell service and then the voicemail came through, which feels very normal for like in a place with not a lot of cell reception. That hey, I was going to be there at 7 and I'll see you there. I got here early, and then he's not there when they first arrive. That feels a little bit believable, a little bit because of that's like misunderstood circumstances, and like when you kind of reel about the things in your mind like that feel real to you, I can understand that. But like to me, this movie had led up with so many other hints that it couldn't just be nothing. It just couldn't be nothing.
Yeah,
to me.
So you were sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop at that point. So after that, Will sort of has this moment. He's having a bit of a breakdown. This sort of realization.
Choi shows up and he's safe.
After this, he has this realization of, not realization, but just sort of he's like having this emotional outpouring of he's still obviously broken up about his son, and he's both in quite a bit of grief, and he's also, I think that this whole movie he's upset that his ex-wife is sort of like, I don't know, like doesn't share the same outpouring of grief. He doesn't understand why she's not also, like, I think that he feels like this should be shared grief, and he doesn't get any of that. I think that is very frustrating for him, not being able to see that. This was his wife. They're not experiencing that together. And even though if they're not together, I think it's frustrating to him to not have that. After this moment, that's when he goes to see his son's old room, which has been converted into this very soulless sort of office. It's all minimal. It's like IKEA. Everything in this movie is like an IKEA dress set. It's just like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like we joked about this, but like this is honestly what I think is. This is what I think conservatives imagine liberals to be doing all day, every day. It's just like, these are the parties they have. This is what they talk about. This is what their houses look like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like LA hell. It's, you know, yeah, they're having dinner parties at 10 p.m., drinking expensive wine, and they're talking about like, you know, their work and their extravagant lifestyles. And, you know, it's just, it's funny to just see that in this movie, because it's like, It almost, you could see them playing it ironically that this is like just this most stereotypical LA party of like just these people that are high elite society, but they at this point, this is when he, you know, finishes spending time in his son's old room, and he sees David out the window to the pool lighting a red lantern, which you know.
Whatever.
I don't think. Okay, let me ask you this: when that happened, what was your sense about
nothing. I even did say that like it felt like a very normal thing to do. It didn't create any alarms for me. I just felt like, you know, I mean, he's already weird enough. Like lighting a lantern felt the most normal thing to do.
Yeah, know? It was clearly a special lantern. It's already like a semi well lit area. They're not going outside, but you think like, I don't know, maybe it's just some sort of ritual that they do, right? Like it seems like sort of a whatever occasion. And then at this point, this is where things really this is where you're in like the third act of the movie and things just pop off.
Yeah. The wine they get is tainted, and someone's having a cardiac arrest. Then someone brings out a gun and shoots somebody, or David shoots somebody, and then all hell breaks loose. And
eventually, before we get to the end, this might be a weird time to ask this actually, but like,
it's all right.
What did you think about this movie? Like, I mean, did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Like,
you know, it felt like, I wish we just need to pick a movie that's like, it's not gonna fuck around. Because like this movie feels like that. It feels like it's just toying with me, and it's kind of like the past two movies we watched, because the one before this, We Need to Talk About Kevin, kind of pissed me off, and this movie did the same thing to me too. It's just like I don't need the slow burn. Like, give me I need spooks. I need like horror. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more abruptly spooky, but to me it was just like too. It was just like a sizzle. Like, it's just kind of sizzling. Things are kind of happening, and you know, to me, I feel like I wasn't really satisfied with this being like a really actually a horror film. It was more like. And when you think about the span of the movie, this movie's, I mean, even from start to finish, like 1 hour 40 minutes, and literally like the end scene takes maybe 15 minutes between like maybe like the outburst and then someone gets shot, and then from there at the very end before like roll credits, it was probably like 15 minutes, maybe even less. You know what? Honestly. The fight scene from They Live or whatever, felt longer than the dinner scene.
Right? Yeah, you mean it felt longer than the actual climax from start to...
I'm sorry, yes.
Start of the climax happens to the end of the movie.
Yeah, that fight scene felt way longer for some reason. And you know, it again, some of the things that they did during this like climactic scene of just people getting shot and stabbed and whatever, felt like, again, kind of like what Aaron said. When you're being chased by the murderer wielding the knife or an axe or whatever, Halloween or Freddy Krueger or whatever, and you run upstairs, you're just kind of like, why the hell would you do that? Like, you're smart. And again, these people are like astute people. Like, they live in a very nice house. Again, they look very posh and prim and proper, all that stuff. But I overall, this movie, it just kind of pissed me off. It pissed me off.
Like, I going back to what you had started saying about the slow burn kind of movie. Neither of us have problems with slow burn movies.
Yeah.
For me, the thing that's frustrating about a movie like this is that if it's a slow burn movie, it really needs to lean on character development, the script, the different scenes that the characters have with each other,
tension.
But these are all weak. Like these are the things that it's the weakest at, in my opinion, because. Again, they do illogical things. They don't do believable things that people would do in situations like this. Especially for the ones when you're best friends with these people, you would have far less of a facade in front of you. Now, I mean, again, like these people haven't seen each other in a long time. There is some awkwardness, natural awkwardness in that kind of thing, but you still would be pretty blunt about like who invited this bozo.
Yeah.
You know what this movie feels like to me is Get Out. That's what it feels like to me.
I didn't see the entirety of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, like
but I know the premise and like most of the plot.
Like to me, we haven't watched Get Out as part of this podcast, but like I'm not a big fan of Get Out. I think that whenever I went into this movie, I remember it being lauded quite a bit and talked about like how there's this twist. And, like, you're watching it and you're like, okay, well, I think what's going to happen is this. And that's exactly what ends up happening.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you had mentioned about, we need to talk about Kevin, and it's exactly what you had mentioned about this movie, is that as you're watching this movie, you kind of know what's going to happen from the start. And you're just waiting for it.
I will say, and to reiterate kind of what Aaron said about, like, we like slow burns. It's like, we don't... movies don't have to be good. Movies don't have to be good to have a twist, and vice versa. Like, a movie doesn't need a twist to be good, you know? So to me, it's like, the fact that, like, you know, you can sit here and think, like, I know what they're saying is actually, like, very strange. They are cultish. Something bad is going to happen. They're estranged, yada, yada, yada. There's some ties of, like, violence in the very beginning with the coyote scene, like the very first scene. To me, it's just, like, there's so much evidence here to point to me that, like, despite what Will has an outburst about, like, his feelings and, like, his friends saying, like, bro, you're off the handle. It's just, like, the dude's got valid points. He's got very valid points about, again, how things transpired, this random guy, this random girl in there who says he wants to bang him, and he's like, what the heck? What are you talking about? And she's like, I want you to beg for me. I won't even have to say a word. I'm like, okay, like, if to me it's like if some random person said that to the bar or at a party, I'd be like, hey, Abby, like, this chick was, like, talking to me about this. Like, let's get out of here. Like, this is very... And this is, again, after all the things that had already happened. To me, it's, like, an easy... It'd be like, we just don't belong here anymore. Like, we'll catch you later, you know?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I think there's a challenge in this movie in that it's pretty short. It's an hour and 40 minutes... Which is, I think, a good time for a movie. Like, it's not like I feel like... I don't feel like a movie needs to
not
be...
Not this movie.
encroaching into 2 hours and 20 minutes or whatever. So it is challenging to do character development, plot development. You're very limited in what you can do. Mm-hmm. But I think that my same critiques about We Need to Talk About Kevin is exactly what I think that this movie needs. Is, like, more... Take characters, develop them a little bit, and then put them in rooms together. Like, what would if they had developed Will a little bit more and Eden a little bit more, throw them into a couple scenes together where they, like, have to deal with the awkwardness of being in the same room. Maybe they're in the same room and one of the people that they were with leaves and they have to have this awkward conversation. Like, developing this tension and then this strange cult leader, like... Mm-hmm. Put him into a room with somebody who is maybe, like, overtly trusting. And then the audience is sort of feeling, is this when it's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen in this scene? Like,
I think you're right.
I think these are such underdeveloped characters that you don't really feel like any of the conversations they have together or like apart from one another are all that substantial. They feel like boring,
meaningless.
They feel like you're just waiting for the conversation to be over so you can move the plot forward.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. So,
but in the end,
let's skip to the actual end of the movie itself. So go on.
This lantern was actually a beacon, and then you kind of joked. You said it was the beacons of Gondor.
Yeah,
and it ended up kind of being the same. Like there was Will and his girlfriend. I can't remember if they're married, but like I'm pretty sure they're just together. But anyways, they look out into the hills of Hollywood.
They hear like sirens.
They hear sirens. There's a helicopter, and there's all these lanterns that are lit up in the hills, and you hear women screaming, and then I think gunshots maybe. So it's just like this cult has influenced people in the hills of Hollywood and convinced like this lantern is a symbol of like tonight's the night. We're gonna kill everybody that we love. It just felt like they had to put in some weird like connecting thing, and it just feels so unnecessary. It feels like very cheap. It's like it makes you want to be like, oh, like a gasping moment, but like it just doesn't do that for me. It just didn't make me feel like I really even was like that surprised, because again, everything I saw was completely expected. And if that's the big twist, like, to me, very weak.
Yeah, like I think it's for me, I think it's an effective reveal. Not as
cinematically, it looks like in the. I mean, if that's what you're saying.
Well, I just mean like I think that it is an interesting like, oh wow, like it's interesting that it was happening.
Yeah, it's a unique cult type thing. You would expect it for like an action movie maybe, but not for a horror movie. But
I don't know. I find it pretty effective. I think that it's like I think that it is interesting that because when we first see the lantern, we assume that it's like something that is just going to happen to this one house. They look out, they see it's the same lantern lit for all these different communities. And I kind of like that they don't need to have some exposition about like, and then the cult, we pan back and we see that the cult had rooted its territory in the hills of Hollywood. Like, you don't need to do all that. It just can be like, oh wow, like an interesting reveal. Like, it doesn't need to be something.
So that's the best thing the movie did. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's one of the better ones. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I agree. I think that the panning out shot, like the terror-stricken hills of Hollywood with the red lanterns and like people screaming and the helicopters, like it's pandemonium, chaotic, whatever. I see that.
I think it's an interesting like take on the fact that the whole movie you're seeing this is a very insular discussion. Sure. Like the cult is like, oh, it's invaded our friend group, but it has actually invaded a lot of the area they live in, which I think is again, it doesn't salvage the movie for me. But I just think it is I think it was a cool reveal.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think it doesn't salvage the movie, but like to me, it feels very hollow because there's nothing that you learn about the cult that isn't like different than like an average like. I mean, if you ask any middle school, high school student to be like, give me a cult, a religious cult, it would feel like this would be the description. It would be like something happens after death, you connect together, whatever. But like there's nothing to feel like there was some motivation for this to occur at a group level. So the beacons to me don't feel like they're that important because again, what we know about the cult feels very individualistic. Like it's not about like Dr. Joseph wanting to like take over the hills of Hollywood. And like, if there was some revealment about, maybe it being more group led than just being like, again, we need to kill these people on our, to send them to their, to me, just the cult kind of feels more like on an individual, again, what you experience on an individual level rather than the group level. So seeing the pan out of the lanterns, it was surprising, but to me it feels very ineffective because we don't really know much about the cult anyways.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that it kind of works that we don't know anything about it and just know that it is like come to fruition. It's laid this heavy foundation in this area, but I don't know. Like, I hope that whoever was doing that wasn't saying there could be a sequel.
I was just gonna, don't. We're just waiting for the invitation, comma 2.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think that's what they were going for.
Yeah,
but I could see somebody. I could see somebody at Netflix who is counting their
desperate for
seeing that, hey, we can make a little bit of money on that IP.
I was just gonna say that, like, that's like the opening the doors to like the cult. To me, it's again. I feel like if you had a second one that talked about the cult itself, I feel like it would do better than this movie. That's a bold claim.
I don't know. I feel like okay, so like that's kind of my problem with like movies like Blair Witch 2 and Hell House 2 is like it's the mystique of these things is more interesting when left unsaid, and then when you say more about it, it sort of is like, okay, like I don't really need more lore. In fact, I think the absence of it made it more interesting. I don't know. I mean, like I don't think this is a movie that rewatching is going to grant you anything different than you saw on first watch. You know what's kind of sad is I think I remember watching this the first time and thinking that was pretty okay, and I'm watching the second time and being like, I really did not enjoy that.
Yeah.
I really found it quite bland.
Yeah.
I thought it was just very ho-hum.
It feels very Netflix safe.
Yeah, it's just like,
I can see some like 50. And no, I'm not judging your age group, but like I can see some like. I even say the word amateur just feels dirty. I wouldn't say that. But like just someone who's just like putting. You could put this.
You could just say like a casual viewer would
casual.
find this interesting.
That's fair. Yeah. A casual viewer would be like, you know what, that wasn't that bad. This feels like, again, something you put in the background, and it doesn't change very much throughout. Like that's what it feels like to me. It feels very Netflix safe.
Yeah.
Doesn't really press any boundaries. It really doesn't explore deep themes. It really doesn't explore relationships that much. It's just kind of like a very surface level, slightly spooky, creepy dinner party with cult themes that ended up being exactly what you expect.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to look really hard and do some introspection on this movie, I think that there are a lot of obvious lines of like the Manson family murders in this. Like that is very, you're in LA, you've got this coals of people, and then the girl that sort of shows up is, they even make a comment about it's like feeling like the Manson family, like
Mansonian.
I think that there's some stuff to glean from this movie, but overall I felt like, just, I'll be honest, kind of bored with it. Just kind of bored. Like
it does remind me of We Need to Talk About Kevin. It feels very much like exposition-y to ending that doesn't really pay off as a horror movie should.
Yeah, the other thing we were laughing about is like, I can swallow the idea that people in a horror movie do not have good cell reception, but I have got to really suspend my disbelief or my belief that you are not getting decent cell reception in downtown LA.
Yeah.
That is something else.
Or even still with like, I mean, this is even going a step further, but with like Wi-Fi access, like internet access, and like the ability to do Wi-Fi calling. I know that's like, again, we're diving into things where like feels very modern, but in horror movies now feel that they have to push those boundaries, and they have to like literally do that in exposition to say, well, you don't have self-service here. Like, it feels unlikely. Now that's why things like movies feel like they take place in cabins, and they have to be like, well, of course it's a cabin. It doesn't have self. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
I agree. It
like-
feels very strange to say that in the middle of Hollywood.
Yeah, like holding up, I can't, like, it's not as eye rolly whenever, like you said, like you're
Yeah.
in a forest and you're like, does anybody have any signal?
Yeah.
Like that makes
Those are
sense.
questions you're
it's like
asking
it's like
anyways,
it's a line that you hear a billion times, but it is very like, come on. When you see somebody in this like this lavish mansion holding their phone, like, does anybody have any signal? It's like, come on, like,
Yeah.
I think that it is, I don't know. It's just a convenient plot method of saying they can't call, they can't go anywhere, they're trapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to dog on it. I hate for this to be another movie where we're dogging on back to back. But like, I felt bored. I felt like the conversations weren't interesting. I did not really like this movie very much.
I seconded.
I mean, and there were a couple other movies we had debated, and yeah, like we said, like I like slow burn movies. I like movies
Yeah.
that are more conversation heavy and,
Sure.
and it's more about interpersonal relationships. But I think that this doesn't have that either. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't watch this one. Don't recommend.
Yeah, don't take the invitation.
No invitations here.